Right, as our panel is getting settled, good afternoon. Welcome to this session on building FinTech powerhouses. As Edie said, I'm Russ Shaw, I'm the founder of Tech London Advocates and Global Tech Advocates, and I'm delighted to be joined by a panel representing some of the leading voices from a UK and Europe-wide ecosystem of FinTech hubs, each with their own distinct strengths and identities, which I'm sure we'll be hearing more about. From the regulatory agility of Lithuania and the creative energy of Berlin, to the UK's northern powerhouse in Leeds and London's global FinTech leadership, our discussion today will focus on what it takes to grow a thriving FinTech hub in 2026 and how to balance local competition with the need for global collaboration. So I am delighted to welcome the following panelists. So just to my left is Tracy Brabin, who's the Mayor of West Yorkshire. And then we have Howard Dawber, OBE, who's the Deputy Mayor for London. And then to his left is Franziska Giffey, Mayor of Berlin and Senator for Economic Affairs, Energy, and Public Enterprises. And then at the end is Asta, Radikaitė, who is the Ambassador of the Republic of Lithuania to the United Kingdom. So a fabulous panel. So let's jump right into this. Tracy, I'd like to start with you. Between 2020 and 2023, Leeds saw a whopping 263% increase in the number of FinTech startups and scale-ups. In addition to what you're drinking in the water there, what do you see as the driving force behind the triple-digit growth? And just share a little bit about your long-term ambition for West Yorkshire.
Superb. What an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. And those numbers are pretty striking, aren't they? 263% growth. And I think it's a combination of things. One is legacy. So we are home to the Bank of England. We are home to over 200 FinTech companies, the 4 largest accounting companies, the Wealth Fund. We're also home to the FCA. And I think that's really important because not only are we the largest financial and professional services sector outside of London, we also have the regulatory body on hand in Leeds. And I like to say that in West Yorkshire, 2 hours away from London, we are the funky younger sibling of the London Square Mile, and we like to call ourselves the Northern Square Mile. And it's also caught on by government too, because you'll remember that the Chancellor of the Exchequer, her Leeds reforms were announced in Leeds about the professional services and financial services. So the way that we can put a flag in the sand about us being the home of the disruptor and the innovator means we're also home to some of the world's biggest unicorns, whether that's Go Cardless or Pexa. They are there because we are the sandbox of innovation and technology as well. And that's why FinTech North has been, I think in June, it's the 10-year anniversary of FinTech North, that we are definitely the surprising alternative to London.
Very good, thank you. Franziska, let me turn to you next. What makes Berlin's FinTech value proposition unique? And what action or policy do you feel has been a game changer for Berlin's status as a FinTech hub?
Yeah, hello everyone and good afternoon. Greetings from Berlin to London and to all the ones who are interested in here, first of all. I'm Deputy Mayor in Berlin and Senator for Economic Affairs. And when we look at our economy, we have 13 years after another an economic growth over the average of the Federal Republic of Germany. And that is some reasons. One is that we invest in technology and diversity, and that we see that the FinTech, the Green Tech, the Health Tech, and also the games branch are fastly growing. And if you think of Germany, of course, you think of the FinTech or the financial places in our country. Maybe you would think at Frankfurt first. And Frankfurt is the traditional banking place. But if it comes to all the digital financial services by the FinTech enterprises we have, you will see Berlin is fastly growing. We have also about 200 FinTech enterprises. We have 6,000 startups, more than 100,000 people working in the startup ecosystem from more than 170 different nations. So the diversity, the innovation, the internationalization, all of it comes together. And the fintech sector is a fast-growing sector. When we look at the VC, what we see in Germany in the fintech scene, 2/3 of the venture capital in Germany go to Berlin. And that has a reason. It's not only because you have a good ecosystem, you can do everything in English, you have perfect research institutes, you have this transfer between research and, of course, the economy, but you also have a situation where we have a city where it's not only important what happens between 9 and 5, but what happens between 5 in the afternoon and 9 in the morning. And that is for international talents very attractive, and that's why it's growing.
That's great. I mean, maybe just to tease out a little bit more from you, because particularly with Frankfurt as so strong in banking and finance, what have you had to do that has really tried to help Berlin in the fintech space? You're getting great results. What has been in your inbox, if you will, to try and move that needle?
I think you have to do a couple of things. The first thing is, of course, to make a good environment for investment. For people who want to found an enterprise, first of all, they need coaching, they need advice, they need a network. They need people who help them for the first steps. We started a startup stipendium. We started a pre-seed fund. We started funding for especially women who are entrepreneurs and founders, because we have still in 5 startups, we have 1 woman, yeah? I don't know if exactly the figures of in London, but I think everywhere in the world you see there are much more men founding in a startup. So we have something to do, and we have to build the places, the hubs, the AI Square, the AI Hub, which we have in Berlin already. We have to build the places where you can build the first prototype, and to fund these laboratories, to fund these networks, to give advice to the business location service, business immigration service to get talents from abroad. All these framework conditions, very important. You need an attractive city, but you also need some funding for the ones who want to
That's
follow.
really helpful. Thank you for that. Just before we move on from this bit of the conversation, I wanted a quick response from Asta and then Howard to this question. If you had to pick one defining strength that keeps your hub globally competitive today, what is it? So just a brief response. Asta, you first, and then Howard.
I would say it's agility,
Okay.
drive, speed with credibility. We're fast. You can license in Lithuania very fast, much faster in other countries, but we don't compromise on safety and trust. So if you combine agility and credible, then it's exactly what fintechs need if they want not only to launch, but also to scale.
Great, thank you. Howard, your thoughts?
I think it's really what we're doing here today, and I'd like to say welcome Tracy, frequent visitor to London, relatively frequent visitor to Leeds these days, and Deputy Mayor of Berlin. We were together last week at FIBE Berlin, the equivalent conference in Berlin.
FinTech Berlin,
The
you
FinTech
visited
Berlin.
us. Thanks very much.
And welcome to Asta, who's now a Londoner because she's the ambassador here in London. I'd say it's ecosystem. It's the things that bring the people together. And it's not just within the fintech ecosystem, but it's all the other parts of the tech sector and then the support services that make London a great place to start a business in pretty much any sector. And I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but London's obviously now certainly tech capital of Europe, fintech capital of the world, we think now, having overtaken San Francisco and New York. And part of that is about being open. We see the best way to support and enhance London's productivity and competitiveness is not by throwing up walls. I'm not making any aspersions there on any countries particularly, but by opening doors and being open as a place where wherever you start, we'll provide a platform for growth.
That's great. And Howard, you touched upon this, and we're going to move into this next session on cross-border collaboration. It's great to see that you're already engaging with our 3 panelists. Asta, let me come to you next. How important is cross-border collaboration to Lithuania's success from an EU perspective more broadly, but specifically with cities like London and Berlin represented here today?
For us, cross-border collaboration, it's not only important, but it's essential. And it's how the ecosystem works. We're a small country, but we never built fintech just for ourselves. From day one, it has been international by design. Today we have over 250 FinTech companies, and many of them are using Lithuania as gateway to EU market. Lithuania is EU's largest FinTech licensing hub, and is growing. What really drives our success is how we connect with other hubs, especially London and Berlin. London is global FinTech leader, capital, talent, innovation. Lithuania complementing that by offering very efficient EU base, fast licensing, strong regulatory dialogue, and access to the EU capital market. That's why companies like Revolut has chosen Lithuania. That's why others like Checkout.com or Tide are expanding there. Berlin plays a different but equally important role. It is one of Europe's most dynamic startup and innovation ecosystems. For us, it strengthens connections across continental Europe, particularly in areas like digital finance, AI, and next-generation financial services. So this is not just cooperation, it's a shared ecosystem building. We're putting a lot of effort in institutional links between regulators, innovation agencies, industries, because for companies, they don't think borders anymore, and frankly, shouldn't we? So whether it's London, Berlin, or other European hubs, the goal is very simple. Make it as easy as possible for fintechs to scale across markets, not to get stuck between them.
Yep, very good. Thank you, Asta. Howard, let me bring you in and pick up on London's role vis-a-vis the rest of the UK. How can the London or the regions narrative become London and the regions? I talk about the greatness of the and versus the tyranny of the or. And how is the capital actively collaborating with UK fintech hubs like West Yorkshire?
Yeah, so if you go back 10 years or so to the birth of levelling up under the previous Tory government, I don't think for a second what George Osborne meant when he talked about that. And George Osborne, although he did lots of things that I would very fundamentally disagree with, was pretty good on the regulation of fintech and opened the door to a lot of what's happening now. And that has been a consistent thread from the Treasury of sensible regulation. So good, solid regulation, but predictable and leaving room for innovation. But also, I don't think for a minute he meant that you do down London to improve the rest of the country. And I'm really pleased to say that that has moved on, that conversation, particularly under the current government, into sort of fierce collaboration, as well as occasional gentle rivalry on specific things. But, you know, if you start in Silicon Valley and you got a train for 2 hours, or if you drove 4 hours, you'd still be in California. You know, LA to San Francisco is twice the distance of London to Leeds. And people in California think nothing of, oh, I'll just go to LA for a day, or I'm collaborating with someone in LA. We've got to get over this idea that Leeds is somehow, you know, a distant city from London. It's absolutely part of the same ecosystem. We've got the same regulation. And as Tracy was saying, the play between the two centres now, where people are, you know, starting their business in Leeds, growing it in Leeds, finding partners, money, platforms in London, and vice versa as well, where London businesses are then setting up things in Leeds because, you know, it's a great place for talent and innovation. That's how we've got to see it. And that openness that London has, that we're creating a platform for everybody in the world to grow fintech, not just for, you know, our own purposes. That open international platform, I think that's reflected in the way that, you know, companies like Revolut, Monzo, Wise, some of our biggest fintechs are in their very nature about international global engagement. It's not an internationally focused business with a London base. It is a global business about global trading, and those things are crucial to our DNA, I think.
Very good. And I just, as the moderator, we were in the green room just before, just to add a point, I suspect there's going to be a lot of cross-border collaboration because there was a very robust discussion on the importance of supporting women in fintech and female entrepreneurs. So I suspect there's going to be a bit of follow-up after this session on that, which was just great to see, bringing all of these leaders together. Right, for the final question, I would like for you to each look into your crystal ball and look 5 years into the future and address this. what did you do to drive collaboration with FinTech hubs across the UK and Europe? And what was the biggest factor to enable the continued success of your FinTech hub? I'm going to start with you.
Well, one of the greatest gifts of being the mayor is the opportunity to come to events like this, not just here in London, but across the world. And to be an advocate and a champion for a sector. And certainly financial and professional services are the jewel in our crown in West Yorkshire. I was the first ever mayor of West Yorkshire, the first ever female metro mayor in the country, but also being able to go on trade missions, some with the Prime Minister. I spoke at India's biggest FinTech event, talking about our funky younger sibling to the London Square Mile, and also on the back of the Bern agreement that all of you will know. In Switzerland, we were the first to go and make the greatest opportunity of that seamless, frictionless transition between the financial and professional services. But looking into the crystal ball, I hope that the work we've done on transport, we're building a £2.5 billion tram connecting our community in West Yorkshire. We've also got 45 billion for Northern Powerhouse Rail. That connectivity between the north, I think will be the game changer, but also really leaning into talent. As you know, talent is everything when it comes to digital and financial and professional services and FinTech. And with our 7 universities and our 7 FE colleges, we have the largest agglomeration of higher and further education than anywhere else outside of London. So being able to lean into that talent and make sure that people can have a great live-work balance by living in West Yorkshire but working across the world.
Great. So talent, connectivity, infrastructure, all critical things. Franziska, can I bring you in next on looking into your crystal ball? What do you expect to do in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, we have principle of our economic policy in Berlin. We want to be the most innovative place in Europe, and we have to do something for that because we want to really support our fast-growing branches. And I would like to mention that we have built up a House of Finance and Tech in Berlin. The boss of the House of Finance and Tech in Berlin is here, Sebastian Schäfer, sitting in the second row. Maybe you can just stand up so that everyone can see you. And he is the one who develops for us, together with his team, this whole FinTech sector, also for the city and for the cooperation with our entrepreneurs. And I think when it comes to the question who will be the most important financial place in Germany in the next upcoming 5 or 10 years, for us, it has to be Berlin and will be Berlin because Frankfurt is the traditional banking place, of course. But when it comes to FinTech and digital services in the financial sector, Berlin will be the most important city in that. And we have to develop that and we have to come further with that. So for us, being successful in the international competition through international cooperation, of course, establishing the House of Finance and Tech and the whole FinTech sector in Berlin, and third, and this is really, really I think it's really important, we have to tackle also the fact that a lot of people, not in that room, of course, but a lot of people outside there, they have no idea what FinTech is. And we have to be that honest. I mean, our estimation is that in Berlin, maybe 25% of the people like to be in this financial thing and they are keen on that business and they know about that and they want to know. But about 75, maybe more % of the population is not so much interested and does not know anything about it. And that is something about the digital device. And we have 2 issues we are very much focusing on as well. The financial literacy, get to know the people, what it's all about, what is happening here, and the financial well-being. And this is something we have also to play a role because this is something about participation, about living in a democracy, about access to services, access to welfare. And that is something we also have to tackle apart from earning money. And I mean, it's always good when companies earn money because they pay taxes and that is good for us. So, but we have to see also what is the general purpose of that and how we can make a huge part of a society take part in what it's all about.
That's great. And great points about education, awareness, messaging, all really key. Asta, let me bring you in next.
If I look 5 years ahead, the success will come to one thing and one thing only. That is how we succeed to connect our ecosystems, how we succeed to close, to get smoother market entry, to remove barriers for talent, for innovation, and ultimately to have happier young people. Did you know that Lithuania is not only hub for innovation, but also home for happiest FinTech people in Europe? According to recent World Happiness Report, young people in Lithuania are happiest in the world. And with most FinTech employees under 45, this translates into vibrant, motivated, ambitious talent pool.
Great, thank you. Howard, last point from you, please.
Well, I agree with my funky younger sibling, my funky cousin, and our funky other cousin at the end. And it's nice to be a token man on a panel as well, isn't it, Russ? Especially in the fintech sector. We're only going to do this through inclusive growth. I think anybody who's read the growth plan for London that we published last year knows we want to be the capital city of planet Earth. Our ambitions are clear, but we're only going to do it if we're inclusive. Inclusive to other countries, but also inclusive inside London to people that Franziska was talking about. We want to make sure that we're using all our talents and that everybody has an opportunity to take part in the growth. And if we're not, we're fooling ourselves because we're not taking advantage of the amazing talent that is out there waiting to be discovered, whether that's women founders, people from underrepresented groups, new sectors of the economy, other parts of London that don't get a look in. So being inclusive, that's how we're going to deliver growth and keep London at the top of the pile.
That's great, thank you. Thank you, Tracy, Howard, Franziska, and Asta for being this. Give it up for a great panel discussion. Thank you very much.